Venom may be known as Spider-Man's arch nemesis, but we promise he's done some good, nice things in the past. Well, maybe not in the movies, but in the comics and video games, Venom hasn't always been giving Spider-Man a tough time. He's actually been the hero plenty of times, and showed the world he has a heart. Before we begin, subscribe to CBR and ring that bell to join our notification squad so you never miss a video. Without further ado, here are some times Venom was actually a pretty chill guy. Lethal Protector. In the 6-part comic book series released in 1993, Venom makes a deal with Spider-Man. They agree to stay out of each other's way under one condition. Venom has to keep it clean and not commit any crimes. That's easy for most law-abiding citizens, but definitely not Venom. Eddie Brock does end up agreeing to the wager, though, and decides to move from New York City to San Francisco. After retiring from his villain ways, it makes sense for Venom to move to a different city and become a hero. Just like Spider-Man in NYC, Venom becomes a crime fighter, stopping petty crimes and fighting off bad guys that would have been his friends many moons ago. After spending so much time being the hero in San Fran, Venom and Spidey would end up working together side by side to take out Venom's twisted symbiote offspring, making him a true anti-hero in the Marvel Universe. Working with Spider-Man. While Spider-Man and Venom are usually mortal enemies who despise each other more than anything in the universe, they have teamed up on multiple occasions like we just mentioned. One of the times where they fought together was in Spider-Man's self-titled video game release in 2000. It's safe to say this game didn't age all that well, but hey, it's nearly 20 years old. This game started off with them on opposing sides like always. The plot centers around Spider-Man being framed by an imposter who stole an experiment made by Dr. Otto Octavius and decided to present it live in front of hundreds of people to claim all the glory for themselves. Venom mistakes the imposter Spider-Man for the actual thing and tried to play the hero and bring him to justice for his crimes against science. Well, he went about it in a pretty crappy way by luring Spider-Man through kidnapping Mary Jane and nearly drowning her, but that's how Venom plays the hero. Eddie Brock was also pissed that the imposter destroyed his camera, which he desperately needs for his job with the Daily Bugle. After plenty of fights, Spider-Man convinces Venom that there was an imposter trying to pin them against each other. To make up for his huge mistake, Venom helps Spider-Man find the imposter, which was Mysterio, and save the day. Venom Pool. The merc with a mouth, Deadpool, is always getting himself into some of the most ridiculous situations, so it was only a matter of time until he found himself wearing a symbiote suit. It makes sense since he and Venom are two of the most well-known anti-heroes in the Marvel Universe, so they were bound to meet each other sooner or later. Deadpool actually ended up wearing the symbiote suit twice. The first time came in Marvel's perfectly named What If series set in Earth 90211. While hired to put a hit on the Beyonder, Deadpool ended up in the Beyonder's flying limo. Out of nowhere, a black-suited Spider-Man appeared and demanded that the Beyonder remove the symbiote from him. When the limo driver sends Spider-Man out of the limo, the symbiote left Spidey and attached itself to Deadpool, turning him into, you guessed it, Venom Pool. The second time came with 2015's Deadpool Secret Wars, which lets us know about another what-if scenario. It suggests that Spider-Man wasn't the first one to bond with the alien symbiote. Oh no. Instead, it was actually Deadpool who messed with the symbiote so much that it's the reason why Venom is so sadistic. In both cases, Deadpool isn't really a good guy, but still manages to stay an anti-hero despite having the symbiote attached to him. AntiVenom. While Eddie Brock isn't the only one who's worn the symbiote costume and fought under the name of Venom in the comics, he's the guy we think of when we hear the word Venom. One time, he was actually able to finally de-bond from Venom. But in a terrible turn of events, Eddie was diagnosed with cancer shortly after debonding with the symbiote. This caused a big change of heart for the anti-hero, as he started to volunteer at a food shelter. In the food shelter, he ended up meeting Mr. Negative, who used his powers to cure Brock. The thing is, Mr. Negative had no idea there were traces of the symbiote still in Brock's DNA, which created an odd transformation. Mr. Negative's powers fused Brock's symbiote cells with his white blood cells, which transformed Brock into AntiVenom, a hybrid symbiote anti-hero. Despite looking a lot like the normal Venom, Brock isn't as much of a bad guy in the AntiVenom suit. If anything, AntiVenom helps Eddie Brock stay on the righteous path and help those in need. Eddie does exactly that, and uses his newfound abilities to cure the disease. Unlike the Venom symbiote, Brock is in complete control of his actions as AntiVenom, which naturally allows him to be a much nicer person. If only he was always like AntiVenom. Mania. Later in the Marvel Comics, it was no longer Eddie Brock as Venom, but Flash Thompson who started to fight under the name of Agent Venom. The thing is, he didn't fight alone. Sure, he started off lone wolfing as a hero, but he quickly met Andy Benton, who would end up becoming his trusty sidekick. It's like Batman and Robin, but with significantly more symbiote. Andy Benton is a teenage girl who's Flash Thompson's neighbor. Flash actually worked as a gym coach at her high school, so they knew each other for a while. After seeing some weird things, Benton learned that her coach is actually Agent Venom. Whether or not it was just a lucky guess is beyond us, but nonetheless, she's really intelligent. When Lord Ogre puts a hit out on Agent Venom, supervillain Jack-O-Lantern used a poisonous gas on Agent Venom. Once Thompson noticed Andy was nearby, he released a portion of his symbiote to protect her. The thing is, the symbiote ended up attaching to her, turning her into Mania. Mania acts a lot like Venom and becomes an anti-hero in her own right. While Andy has one hell of a dark side to her as Mania, Agent Venom acts as a mentor to Andy and makes sure she stays under control and doesn't abuse her power. Agent Venom. Sticking with Agent Venom, it's a relatively new comic book arc released by Marvel in 2011. This was done to modernize Venom for today's crowd. Marvel's intentions were to not only make Venom look better, but to make the character jump from being an anti-hero to a full-fledged superhero. They did this by putting Flash Thompson, a former high school bully, in his role and giving the character a military-style suit. After having both of his legs amputated due to an accident in the Iraq War, Flash Thompson willingly decides to participate in a government experiment, bonding him with the Venom symbiote. It sounds kind of like Captain America's origin story, just substitute Venom symbiote with super soldier serum. Anyway, the project was successful, and Thompson began using the suit as a crime fighter. The thing is, he can't stay bonded with the symbiote for longer than 48 hours, or else he'll become as villainous as Eddie Brock's Venom. Agent Venom has been a part of plenty of superhero teams throughout the Marvel canon, including the Secret Avengers, the Thunderbolts, and even the Guardians of the Galaxy. Agent Venom is actually one of the most in-demand and efficient superheroes in the Marvel Universe. We hope to see him in the MCU in the future as well. Seeing as how Disney and Sony have had some mixed success with bargaining over the Spider-Man properties over the past few years, we could definitely see that happening. Government Agent. Now Venom has done a lot of interesting things. Most of them bad, but plenty of them have been heroic. Becoming a secret agent for the government definitely has to be one of the most hero-like things he's done. Venom was actually hired by the government to work as an agent in the 3-issue miniseries called License to Kill. Now, of course, he's a villain/anti-hero by trade, so he didn't do it for free. He struck a deal with the government and decided to help them in exchange for having his criminal record wiped off and destroyed. Of course, knowing Venom's history, the government had some concerns due to his tendency to go rogue every now and then. To prevent this from happening, they put a bomb inside Venom's chest and would detonate it if he ever stepped out of line or attacked innocent civilians. They made it clear that they wouldn't hesitate. To avoid, dying, Venom decided to play by other rules. In an undercover spy mission, Venom was sent after Dr. Yes, who, with the help of his son Red Flag, held the entire world hostage by threatening to use an incredibly volatile biological weapon. Venom came up with an incredible plan to thwart Dr. Yes. Well, he actually just barged in and destroyed Dr. Yes and his band of robots. Sign of the Boss. In Venom, Sign of the Boss, we see our favorite anti-hero not named Deadpool continue to work as a secret agent. This time, the government tasked Venom with the mission to stop a bunch of terrorists who infiltrated the Bronx with the goal to hold the president of a South American country hostage in a church. In another shocking twist, Venom doesn't just barge in, take names, and kick ass. He takes a much more methodical and tactical approach. He dresses up as a nun. We're not kidding, he actually does this, but it's something we don't think we'll see in the upcoming Venom movie. Eddie Brock has always had some kind of connection with religion. If you remember in Spider-Man 3, he stood in a church and prayed for God to kill Peter Parker. While this is somewhat edgy all by itself, imagine if he disguised himself as a nun before taking out a bunch of baddies in said church. That would be a little too sacrilegious, even for Eddie Brock. Now, Venom did end up killing the group of terrorists in front of some kids, so he probably scarred them for life. They won't ever look at a church the same way again. Dusk. Dusk is quite the confusing character, but we're not talking about the alter ego Peter Parker once adopted. We're actually talking about the Dusk that's Spider-Girl's best friend and the grandson of Peter Parker's arch nemesis. In one of the weirdest storylines in the Marvel Universe, the daughter of Peter Parker and the grandson of his bitter enemy Norman Osborn, aka the Green Goblin, somehow grew up to be best friends in the Earth 982 story arc. Mayday Parker and Normie Osborn III grew up working together and fighting side by side as crime fighters known as Spider-Girl and and Venom, but he doesn't want to be called Venom because the name has some pretty bad connotations that come along with it. Everyone will be reminded of Eddie Brock's history of being a villain committing plenty of crimes. Unlike his father Harry and his grandfather before him, Normie didn't have a bad bone in his body. He was actually too nice to the point where he came across as overly sensitive. The Venom symbiote tried to rebond with its former host, Peter, but failed and forced itself upon Normie instead. Luckily, with Spider-Girl's help, Normie was able to control the symbiote and suppress its aggressive nature. Instead of destroying the symbiote, Normie used the incredible control he had over it to begin his superhero career as Dusk. Saved Peter Parker's parents. By now, we all know Venom doesn't necessarily want to be a good or bad guy. He just kinda does his own thing, or whatever he thinks he should do in that moment. Well, this complex mindset came to a head in Amazing Spider-Man number 375. In this issue of the famous comic book, Venom kidnaps Peter Parker's long-lost parents, but he doesn't hold them hostage or treat them like crap. He keeps them away from Spider-Man because he wants to protect them from their son. Venom is convinced that Spider-Man is a menace to society, and feels like this is the only way to protect Peter's parents from their son's chaos. He decides to keep them at an amusement park, which is pretty random, but hey, it works. The entire time, Venom assures Spider-Man's parents that he won't hurt them, but they're scared to death by that long tongue of his. Despite not having an end goal to all of this madness, everything is going pretty well for Venom until he gets ambushed by supervillains Silver Sable and her wild pack. She and her pack set the park ablaze, but Venom saves Peter Parker's parents in the nick of time. Later, with some help from his friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, Venom even saves his ex-wife Anne from getting crushed by a giant Ferris wheel. And there you have it. Are you looking forward to the Venom movie? Are there any good guy Venom moments that we might have missed? Let us know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching.